There's 160 to 170 people that work on the agronomy team to prepare the masters. And if you're chosen to do that and you're just a standard superintendent or assistant, it is a blessing and an honor to go and work those unbelievably long hours, put your body through a test like you've never been. Just a typical day, you start 3:30, 4:30, you work till 9:45, 10 a.m., maybe 11, depending on what you're doing. You get a lunch break or a breakfast break, and then you go back in the afternoon and you work till 10 o'clock at night. There's so many people that you have to break it into shifts and, break the monotony. You'll expect to work on the grounds for 12 to 13 to 14 hours a day and then try to rest between as much as you can. Augusta National expects pure perfection. So the people that are chosen to be on the bench that can actually move their way up, they're very good at their trade. They're very good in the industry.
What are some of the jobs you do as a volunteer?
Well, volunteers, not much mowing. You'll do detail work, you get assigned a bunker. Sometimes they'll take 6 to 10 people in a group and they'll go and rake bunkers on certain holes. Like this, Group A goes 1 through 6, Group B goes 7 through 12, and so on and so on. Most of the people that work in certain departments and certain areas have done it for 20 years, so they know their way around. There's no hiccups, and if there are hiccups, there are supervisors everywhere. There's the management staff that are full-time employees of Augusta National that are always there. They're always watching. The superintendent is with a group of 20 people that walks the greens every day, so there's always someone there to support.
We see pictures in advance of the Masters just of fairway lengths of mowers, just dozens of them rolling down a fairway at once. How does the machinery and manpower in advance of that tournament compare to other tournament prep, just in terms of the volume of work?
The best of the best and the most of the most. Augusta National has the equipment on site to do these things. Now, with that being said, a week or two before the Masters, you'll see new equipment show up. It's usually volunteered. 18 fairway mowers is not something we do on a regular basis. It would be nice, but we just don't have the resources to do that. Augusta National has the resources to do that because that is what is expected. So when you see the Flying V, as they call it, mowing fairways, that's a process that was implemented 25, 35 years ago, and it has always worked. They've always loved to have the grain going against the golfer in the fairway and with the golfer in the rough. Playability of the golf course varies based on how you maintain the golf course. It's the most of the most and it's the best of the best when it comes to what we do out here on a regular basis and what they do. And I will say this too, for Masters Week, yes, it is ramped up a little bit. But for just daily membership play, all those things are done in the same form and fashion.
What's the most Masters of maintenance moments you've ever seen?
I'm not going to give the year, but number 3 fairway, there was a hydraulic spill. Now, if you notice, if you watch the fairway mowers, they have tennis balls hanging from the roof. What that is for is if I'm mowing the fairways and I'm following behind another unit, if I see a hydraulic leak, my job is to take that tennis ball, throw it in front of that mower so that operator can see it, lift, pull up, and get out of the way so everyone else can keep going. Now, this particular incident, there was a hydraulic spill that was roughly 50, 60 feet long, about 2 or 3 inches wide. Hot hydraulic oil will burn the turf, and it looks absolutely horrible. Literally in 15 minutes, they have that sod removed and replaced from the nursery. The first group teed off on one while that was being done, and the crowd cheered. They cheered louder for the sod being replaced and put back into place, squeegees, push brooms. That sod was replaced, and the standard golfer or patron had no idea. If they didn't see it done, they would have never known. A divot team at Augusta National will consist of about 16 to 18 very well qualified people, and when they take divots, they're replaced. After the round, they're replaced. If you notice, if you watch the Thursday round and you see people taking divots, when you come back next Friday, try to find that same divot. You're not going to find it. The whole area has been resodded and plugged. I mean, they have special cup cutters. Like, for example, our golf courses, if we have damaged turf, we have hex pluggers, we have, different divot tools. Now, out there, they have probably 15 to 20 different cutters that have different shapes, different sizes. So they know when a divot is taken, but they know what tool, where to go. You see guys ride around with sod plugs in the back that come from the nursery that is in better condition than the turf on the golf course.
Is there the equivalent of first-time jitters for a superintendent? Like where you're raking an Augusta bunker, do you get a little more nervous?
Every day, every time. I've been out here quite a few times, and when you understand the history of what you're doing and where you are, you can't help but have the jitters. To understand like the human footprints, the Ben Hogans, the Arnold Palmers, the Tiger Woods, those guys walked in the same spot that you're walking in, and you're taking care of a golf course that they damaged. That's what we do, what we love to do. But out there, it's a little bit elevated.
I've heard stories about an underground labyrinth of caves and passageways, so you never see the maintenance equipment. Is there any truth to that?
Yes and no. They do have some underground movement areas, we call them. That's about all I'm going to say on that. Not going into detail, but Augusta National, they do things the way you want them to be done. This year, the 13th, not only is it going to be playing at 5:45 versus 5:08 or whatever it was, but the angle of that tee and how it is going to be presented when you see it on TV this year, you're really going to notice just how hard it is to play this golf course. Now, from an agronomy standpoint, what you don't see is the subsurface and the amount of time, effort, and money that went into building this. It was shaped, designed, architect designed it, and then they put all new soil, they installed tubing for temperature control, we have SubAir to make sure moisture is handled. So basically that tee box is back into a cave of trees. So from an agronomy side, it's almost impossible to grow grass. Not at Augusta National. They find a way to give you the best possible turf and then spare no expense to do that. If it gets too cold and too damp, they just turn the heat up. If it gets too hot, they just bring the heat down.
I mean, we've heard about them under the greens at Augusta. Is that very rare for a SubAir system to be under a tee box?
It is because of the cost. They have SubAir underneath their crosswalks at Augusta National. So I remember the story, I want to say it was 2003, a member had slipped in a crosswalk because of a rain event, and the next summer, they put SubAir in the crosswalks. Those are the things, knowing what I know out there, that really impress me. We can do these things. It's possible, but we don't have the resources. We don't have the resources because we can't charge our golfers $10,000 a round of golf. It has to be economical. So when you go out to your golf course after Masters Week, don't expect to see what you saw on TV. Even if you're paying a couple $100 a round, it's not the same thing. We just don't do that. We can't do that. We want to do that, but we can't. The guys at Augusta National, on the team at Augusta National, they're so accommodating. It's like you get as a patron, where everyone is so nice and friendly, and it's the same thing behind the scenes. They're wonderful people to work with. They treat their volunteers with respect. They know that we're all professionals and we are very good at what we do. We just need to be a little bit better that week. So it's not just for the golfers, it's for everyone involved. Their mentality is when guests come to our property or to that property, they want to be treated right. They want to give them the best of the best, just like the golfers that show up. The patrons are just as important.